Good morning. This is the Stockbridge Pool Stewardship Commission meeting on Friday, May 6th, and I'd like to make the motion to open the meeting. And the first thing on the agenda is approve the minutes from April 1st. Any questions, comments, corrections? Yes, Charlie?
I have a question about the minutes. It says that can I see the minutes just?
There's a copy.
Says, the cost of dredging needed to be
Oh,
What was that?
discussed. There.
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, it could be dissolved, but
Right, and there was a couple other little typos that I
Yeah.
saw that, with commas that I can fix.
There were several things. I started watching the meeting and I didn't get all the way through it, but I found several different comments that were not in here. One was from Pat Kennelly, and that was kind of the beginning of the meeting when you asked for the public comments. And let's see, she spoke about a presentation by Ken Warner on cyanobacterial treatments and said it was 2.5 hours. They were going to cut it down and create a video, and she would be getting that video to us. So 2 questions. Number one, I think that should be included in the minutes. And
and the other-
also,
The other
did we hear anything from Pat about this video?
did anyone?
No.
And Charlie had commented after that,
Bob Portman was,
really,
yeah. I think if we're going to be looking at cyanobacteria and considering all the homework the Board of Health did in order to establish an objective basis for assessing what goes on in the lake with respect to cyanobacteria, I would defer to Bob Portman. You know, he has been recommended by a number of people. Misty Ann Merrill recommended him. Emily Stockman recommended him. University of Massachusetts recommended him. And I think Ken Wagner I had a long conversation with Ken Wagner before we selected Bob Portman. And Ken made it very clear to me that he felt himself that he was aligned too closely to the SBA to be an objective observer and commenter. And he declined actually to be the Board of Health's person. So
Okay, but so for the minutes, what do you?
well, the point is, Roxanne brought that up, and she also brought up that I had made a comment. So I think to have the two to go together, in other words, I don't think that having an hour-and-a-half long presentation by Ken Wagner actually is an appropriate thing to do unless we have a corresponding commentary by Dr. Portman. That's what I think. Otherwise, it gives us
So how would you like it worded in the minutes, I guess?
Well, I think the minutes are exactly what Roxanne just said. You know, I just made a small comment. She said
Okay.
exactly.
I would just move that we put off approving the minutes until the next meeting, because I want to review the whole meeting. There was also a comment from Jim Willis that wasn't included, and I haven't had a chance to review the whole meeting, but I think there's probably several things that need to be added to it.
Okay. Is there a motion for that?
I think that's a motion, isn't it?
No, you have to make a motion.
All right, I
can't
move
as chair.
that we put off approving the minutes until our next meeting.
In a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, we'll table this. So the next point, is there any public questions or from the public?
Is there anyone
No hands are up.
No, just Michael.
other than Michael? That's all?
All right, then,
What is that number 7 there?
I don't know.
There, we have Anita Schwerner is here, Lori Dubner is here, Pat Kennelly is here.
All right, so that we should address them and ask them if there are any questions?
They didn't have any hands up?
No hands up. Okay.
Okay, so the next. Is, I got it.
Just while we're still at the minutes point,
No, we passed it. We went on to we went on to citizens query. Sorry.
okay, I was just gonna mention that I'm volunteering to do the minutes for the next meeting.
And I said, thank you. The GZA follow-up, so we had, back at our last meeting, we had talked about the chart and I made copies, they're black and white, if anyone needed a copy. It was that big chart, it is in color online, but, so,
That's all right.
maybe you can share with Gary.
Can I have a copy, please?
I made 3 copies, so could you share?
I can go make more copies if we need another copy.
Yeah. So in the follow-up, there's the chart and we can look it over. So I'll wait till Roxanne gets back.
Amy?
Yes, Michael?
First of all, good morning to everybody. Could you put that up, will you be putting that up on the screen?
No, I didn't bring a computer, I'm sorry. Do you
Okay.
have that chart from last meeting? It was that
Oh,
long
okay.
chart
All right,
that it looked like. And I think, do you want me to email you a copy?
Can you do, well, I don't know how you can do it if you don't have a computer.
I have my phone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, would you do that for
What's
me?
this one, Michael?
I can
Hold
just
on.
share on the spreadsheet. if you
Let me zoom in
have my
on you.
computer.
Here, I'll send you.
Anybody else you got? I can do a screen share on that if you want.
Yeah, Michael requested that when you were out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Isn't that right?
All right, let me see if I can find it. See if I can find it.
So while Roxanne's getting the chart up, so I got an email the other day from Stephen Roy from GZA that they have enough information to start the draft WBP, which is the watershed plan. They just want us to review if we have, so it's a discuss with the committee if any additional information exists. So those are questions for all of you. So there was a bullet points and I made copies. There should be enough for everyone. These were the questions they had asked us. Here, Roxanne, Gary, Michael, and John. If we had any more information on those bullet points, yes or no, and if so, if it could be forward to GZA, but they do have enough information to make a draft plan.
So I just did a screen share of the email I sent you, which basically is the same list. The list of the stakeholders was done and the bylaw was sent to them. And let's see. The bacteria sampling Jim Willis took care of. So he had his staff do 5 years of E. coli test data, and it was compiled into a spreadsheet, and they sent it directly to GZA. So that's done, and the schedule and milestones that come from the spreadsheet. So that obviously we covered already. So the 3 things that I have highlighted were done. But all the rest of these apparently are open items.
Now, when they talk about other bacteria, any beach or other bacteria sampling, are they just talking about E. coli and that kind of group? Or are they actually talking about what Cortland's group is doing and what Mike goes out and does in terms of looking for cyanobacteria, which are obviously another bacterial sampling thing. What are they talking about there?
They're talking about this additional like E. coli testing. Obviously, they have all the information because they're involved in our testing. Monitoring.
So they get that straight from Cortman's group?
Yeah, they get it straight. They get the lab results, yeah.
Pretty sure they, GCA bought Bob's business, right?
I'm not sure, but I think so. I think
Pretty
it's,
sure that's what happened, so they all kind of work for
they're
GCA.
all,
Yeah.
you know, and Ben Murphy is part of that.
Because we wouldn't want to miss that.
So do we have the information of the additional bullet points? Or is it something that needs to be gathered?
Well, I have a question about the dredging, and especially with respect to the last thing that Pat Kennelly brought up about the cost of dredging needed to be discussed. And this is, as far as I can tell so far, this is going to be a huge cost for the town, huge. And I understand from the past, from my own recollection, and I'm being willing to be, my recollection should be improved upon, that's what I'm actually asking, is that I thought that the SBA had actually raised money specifically earmarked for this dredging. And that I don't know all of the different things, but that some of the money may have been temporarily placed into other modes, like even to sue the town and to use it for legal stuff. So what I think is, considering this is such a huge cost for the town, I think this commission deserves a full accounting, a really authenticatable full accounting brought together by our town accountants or our designees that actually looks at the monies that have been previously raised specifically for the dredging so that the town isn't asked to pay for things that they shouldn't. That's what I think. I think for this a large amount of money, this commission deserves to have an accurate and full accounting of all the monies that have been raised so far. And the reason I'm saying this is because I have very good reason to believe that there are monies that have been raised specifically for this that we don't know about. And I think we should have an accurate accounting. So I'd like to say that before we move along with any dredging plans, that we have a full accounting of all of the monies raised for the dredging so that we can make sure that we don't have our town people paying for something that they shouldn't.
Okay.
Well, agreed. And Pat and I had talked about this. I brought it up at an SBA meeting that we really needed to go through both with their financial people, with our accountant, and identify all the places we have money that's dedicated to this. Because the town also has some monies that have been collected, I believe, in some accounts. And so we need to make sure that we're not double counting anything and understand where the money's coming from, how it was raised, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that is obviously part of the plan. However, we're pretty far away from, we're not permitted yet. So, we're not even close. We're probably at least a year away from permitting. So I don't know that there's great urgency, but clearly, yeah.
The
But
permit.
Well, I just
I'd like,
want to emphasize my point so that it's not misunderstood. I think that this particular commission has the responsibility to look at that. That's what I think. I think we, if we're going to be recommending this dredging to the town, which I'm totally for, but if we are going to be recommending this to the town and advising the select board about it, we, as a commission, need to pass off on this and be absolutely sure for ourselves that we have an accurate accounting of all of these monies. We should do it, not the select board, because we're going to advise them, not the town accountant by himself with the Pat Kennelly and the GCA. I think this commission needs to look at it if we're going to recommend this because it's so costly. That's what
I would say the appropriate way to, this is not that the select board would be doing this. This is going to be a matter between the town administrator and our town accountant, Cheryl. So certainly we can make a formal request via email to the town administrator asking for a specific accounting of all monies that we have in our possession regarding dredging.
That's not what I'm asking.
No,
That you're
Charlie,
changing
sorry,
it.
And we can also make a formal request to the SBA to provide that information from their organization. They're two different separate organizations. What we want to ensure is that we're not double counting any monies.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I
Charlie's
just
talking
want
something
my
else.
particular point to be well understood. I don't want to make a request. I don't think that's a satisfactory rendition of what I just said. We have the responsibility to be sure that we know that those monies are accurately accounted for. It's not just that we're going to make a request. We have the responsibility as a commission, if we're going to push forward this dredging, which is a huge cost, and I assert I am totally for the dredging. But we, as a commission, if we are going to be asking the people in our town to pay all this money for it, we don't just request, we don't just ask for, we need to be sure ourselves that we're making a recommendation that is an appropriate one, and it's based on the fact that we've accounted for all the money, and that when the town accountant comes here and shows us what's going on, that we can be sure of that. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying to request anything or any of that kind of passive aggressive type stuff. I want to see it. That's what I want to see.
Well, that's
I want to
fine.
be sure.
I'm just saying that the procedure to do that is to make a formal request.
And I'm
then
gonna,
let's-
as chair, I'm gonna move the question on.
Well, however, we cannot do that with the SBA monies, and it seems as though
If we
that's.
don't have, yeah, but you see, yeah, well, yeah, it is, it's a big concern because that's where I think a lot of money has been raised that we don't know about. And if we're going to be doing this, and believe me, the SBA is going to benefit from this. We all know that. And
hello?
I'm not against that. I'm
wait.
not against it. What we need to do is instead of just requesting this, and it's fine, we can request it and that's the beginning of the procedure, but we demand it. This is a commission. We should have the authority and the responsibility, if we're going to recommend to the town that they spend $1 million or whatever this is going to cost, that we know what we're talking about. It's not just a request. The request at the beginning of the procedure, we need to have it. We need to have it. And I appreciate the idea of requesting, and I appreciate your point that maybe that it's going to be harder for getting the SBA to give us this accounting. But we should have a proper accounting, and we should know that we're getting all the information. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend this dredging, because I'm not going to make the town pay for something that I don't think is properly accounted for. And I do not subscribe to the idea that if we request something and that we put ourselves in a subordinate position that maybe it can be denied. That's not it. We're a commission. We demand it. We need it. If we're going to put this kind of proposition before the town, we should have the guts to say that this is
Jamie, can we heard you, Charlie. All right, we get the idea.
So
Can you just say something? I have my
you may
hand
make a
raised.
comment and then I'd like to just get back to the point of order. Go ahead.
Do I have the floor?
Yes.
Charlie, you're bringing up a can of worms. In other words, anything we recommend, we've got to know financially. Financially is not our reason to be. Our reason to be is what is good for the Stockbridge Bowl. Once you start saying, well, can we afford it or can't afford it, no project would go forward. The SBA, under Pat's guidance, we plan on raising more money for the, once we decide that that's the way the SBA and the town wishes to go. The town will then look at it financially, but they will know it's our responsibility to tell them that dredging is a singularly very important thing to do for the health of the Stockbridge Bowl. It's not our job to decide how much money or whether we can afford it or whether we should recommend it, because there's still a lot of money left to be done or to be raised. I totally disagree with your way of thinking on this thing. This is not our job. This is the job of the select board and of the finance committee, and together with partnership with the SBA. And that can be done in a meeting, but to say we don't want to recommend something because financially it may be too expensive, that's not our job.
I didn't say that at all. I did not
Oh, that's
say
what you're
that.
implying, and that's what
No,
I'm.
I am not. I am
No.
not saying that at all. I'm saying specifically and only because of my recollection, this is my recollection, that there's monies out there that have not been properly identified, quite a bit of money that really ought to be going to underwrite the dredging. I know that, okay? And it's just the dredging I'm talking about. It's only the dredging. I'm not talking about any of these other things.
Why?
I'm
Because it's too expensive? Because it's an expensive project?
No,
Any project.
because my recollection is that there were monies that were gathered by the SBA specifically for the dredging.
Yes, but you said you cannot recommend this to the town if it's a very expensive proposition.
No, I did not say that.
No.
I did not say that. I
Mike.
just
That's
want to
what I
know how
heard.
much, yeah, I know, and I'm telling you, I didn't say that. I don't
Okay.
care how expensive it is. We need to know where the money is.
That's something else. That's a select board, finance, and the SBA can get together and do that and give us a report. But it's not our job to determine whether it's a project that's too expensive for us to
I'm
recommend.
not saying that.
I'm going to
at
call
all.
in the question as chair. And I think Charlie makes a very good point that I think what I heard is Charlie's just saying that all accounting needs to be in order to recommend as a commission, because we recommend to the select board and that we need to be responsible. But the question that GZA has nothing to do with money. It has to do what species and other things in the lake will be threatened or endangered, if any. So I'd like to get back to that, though this is a very important and responsible question, because we have a lot to get through in the next 35 minutes, if you don't mind. Do you feel
Sure.
okay?
No, I think you're right. I'm sorry.
No, I don't think you should apologize. I think it's a very important thing, just, we cannot just, it's not the timing. Because the lake management plan needs to get in and the draft needs to be in order. The clock is ticking, they charge the town a lot of money. So, any information on dredging as it affects the species of the lake? Do we have that information, or who does have the information that we could forward? Michael.
GZA has all that information. In
They
other
do?
words, one arm of GZA should be talking to the other arm. In other words,
Okay.
is that right, Roxanne?
Yes.
GZA in Springfield has more information than we have. They know it inside and out. So who's ever making the lake management plan on the GZA side should be talking to the Springfield GZA.
Okay, thank you, Michael, for that
Well, the
information.
GCA gave a very good map about the Marstonia lustrica. They showed the habitat of the Marstonia lustrica. It was very educational. They could do this with other things too. They showed the Marstonia's habitat. They showed the potential habitat. They had a graph that showed the proposed dredging, where it would encroach upon the habitat and also the potential habitat. They had percentages. They had a graph, and that would be nice to get from them for other things too that were important. If they could depict, does everybody know that graph that they gave us, that table? It's a very useful way to see it. So I suggest that with respect to this, maybe they could give us the same kind of format, because that format I thought was pretty good. Is anybody here not know that graph that they gave us?
Get some copies.
I don't
or spread it
remember.
around.
Yeah.
Well, they have a picture of the lake, and then they show the Marstonia habitat. And then they show the Marstonia potential habitat. I don't know how they decide that exactly, but they have that. And then they show where the dredging goes and how it encroaches on both. And it's about like 10%, 9% on one side.
That's incidental.
12%, something like that.
That's incidental,
Right.
yeah.
If we had that kind of format for the various other species of concern, it would be useful to see that, I think. So I suggest that we request from GCA that we get the species, the encroachment of the dredging on various important species with the same kind of format, because I thought that was enlightening to see it that way.
I have a question for Michael Nathan. Michael, in the net benefit plan, was anything other than the Marstonia mentioned? Was the
Wow.
bridal shiner included in that?
I believe that those are the two endangered species that they're concerned about. So
Okay.
if it was specifically mentioned in that, I'm not sure, but they keep bringing up those two endangered species.
Want to give me the hook?
No.
Good.
And then I don't know who would have this, so someone could help me. Any current structural best management practices, BMPs. It says stormwater, septic, and de-icing related. De-icing would be salting, right?
Yeah.
Would that be Michael Buffoni? Would that be
That'd be the stormwater and de-icing would be the highway superintendent.
highway? So Hugh?
Yeah.
And have been discussions about that.
I know, yeah. You said the milestones and schedule's been sent, Roxanne?
Yeah, that's the spreadsheet that we were sharing before.
And then evaluation and monitoring can come to us from the lake-based work, but from you on the aquatic plants, bacteria, and any stormwater controls. Who would have the best information on that?
Conservation Commission for aquatic plants, since you're hiring Tom Coote to come in on an annual
Right.
basis. How about stormwater controls, Michael?
Is that Hugh?
Yeah, yeah. Nothing's really changed for stormwater stuff up there, but
And then bacteria would be coming from Tri-Town Health, if we're talking
right.
about,
That's Jim.
yeah.
All right, what's all they're asking us for right at this moment?
Well, there's the very first one, overall stormwater septic de-icing management improvements or future improvement plans. And it seems as though they've
But that would,
they doubled up on that one.
yeah, that was the same as the one we
Yeah.
just, so that's very similar. I think it can be used for both.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, thank you. I guess that, we can wrap that up. So, Dawn, do you want to give us a report on your meeting? On your sewer and water meeting?
There was really nothing discussed that would be applicable to our discussion. I mean, we talked basically about,
we only had a 2
Further-
in between meetings too, so it was.
yeah, we talked about the continuing work for the filtration of the stormwater. And we talked about projects that have to do with bridges. We postponed some of the big expenses. So that's really nothing very urgent.
No, there was, I thought,
I just wondered, John or Mike, do you guys ever communicate with the interflu people? Who? Interflu, like Mike Burke. Did you ever meet Mike Burke?
I haven't.
Remember that interflu study?
what is that?
The interflu study was a study a couple of years ago. It was a very interesting study about stormwater and all sorts of sediment accumulation in the bowl. And I just wonder, since this keeps coming up, about the stormwater, maybe it would be worthwhile to communicate with Mike Burke, who ran that, and just see, or at least review. That was a huge. Have you guys seen that report that they gave us?
I have not seen it, no.
Harry, do you know the report?
I've seen it, but I don't
It
remember.
might be something good for Huey, the highway superintendent, to look at. John was referring to like our I&I issues that we have, inflow infiltration for treating a lot of groundwater and some
Yeah.
groundwater that's, water we don't need to treat ends up at the wastewater plant. It costs a lot of money to treat it. And
Salting.
so we're on phase 3 of that. So that's a DEP mandated thing. So that was.
Right, and that's why I don't think it has much to do with this committee, but I think what you're bringing up,
Specifically with respect to the bowl,
Yeah.
they identified a number of stormwater problems going into the lake, right? So I'm just thinking, as long as we're bringing up stormwater, maybe it would be a good idea to segue into getting some sort of communication up with them, just to review their, would everybody be interested in seeing?
I'd be interested.
Yeah, sure. You passed it along to Huey.
Yeah, I haven't. I think it's been sent out before, but
Yeah, no,
I'm
I
not
sent it,
sure
I
if
sent it
John
to
has
you.
it.
I sent it to you.
And GCA does have a copy of
Right,
this.
and there's something called
Okay.
WeTransfer, which is a pretty good internet way to share big files.
What is it called?
WeTransfer. So I'll send it out to everybody that way, and then you can look at it that way. So if you get something from me from WeTransfer, WeTransfer, it'll be this interfluve study because it's a huge file. But it's worthwhile to look at it because they identify so many stormwater vulnerabilities for the sediment accumulation in the lake.
And plus there was a problem there with salt in the winter flowing in through.
Different, yeah, exactly these
Okay.
things, exactly these
All right,
things.
so it's going to be important for Hugh to look at it.
Yeah, that'll be helpful for you. And what about Michael, or John, I had heard something about the clog in the reservoir. Does that have anything to do with the lake or anything?
Drinking water reservoir.
Okay. So nothing to do with the lake, our lake.
And I think you also referred to the water testing, right? You did some.
Yeah, I talked about, which is, I'm sure, probably next or on the agenda.
Yeah.
For we did.
They're up
go out.
next.
You want me to?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we went out, last week in the gale force winds. And a representative from GCA was there, real nice guy. And he grabbed samples while Mark and I collected data, and then we all went and collected the samples from the three streams coming in and the outlet. And the water column was fully mixed. I mean, everything was the same top to bottom. It was almost identical. DO and even temperature, it was all thoroughly mixed.
How deep did you go?
14 or 15 meters.
Well, it's almost to the bottom.
Oh, yeah, no, we hit bottom. We always go to the bottom and hit.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, really nothing exciting to report, but we'll start seeing stratification and some incline stuff, I'm sure. Well, maybe next month, but, so we'll be out again next month, collecting samples and doing our thing, and,
Mike, and I think I've asked this before, it's once a month, right? Or is it every other month?
yeah, once a month.
Okay.
Was it Ben Burpee that came?
No, it was a new guy, Paul. I think he worked for Bob before,
Okay,
so he came out. Yeah, younger gentleman, really nice guy. It was,
okay.
he's a big snowmobiler, so we had a lot of time.
And there was that question, I think, that came up, you wanted to borrow Chuck's boat. Did that get solved?
I'm not sure if it did. We did go out on Chuck's boat, and I'm not sure. I did talk to him about it, and I don't know if anything, he wasn't, in true fashion with Chuck, he wasn't worried about anything like that. I think I was a little more worried about it than
Yeah, no,
most, but he's
no, it's.
he likes going out and learning. He likes.
Well, no, that's okay, but I knew that there was a question that came up about, if that was okay to use a citizen's boat.
Yeah,
Yes,
The
Roxanne?
administration has spoken to him, and it is perfectly fine because he is driving his own boat.
Okay,
We are not borrowing his boat. He's volunteering the boat and he's volunteering to drive it. And because of that, there's no liability. And we've talked about paying him a stipend.
yeah. Yeah,
And he's not interested in it, but we want to pay him a stipend anyway.
okay. And Michael, do we have any information, and it might be Hugh's department, about the harvester? Has it been,
yeah, that would be Hugh, or the selectmen, or, I know they were trying to source a new engine for it because the other one had pushed a sleeve or two out of the cylinder block, out of the cylinder, so it was pretty much a
But
loss.
the larger harvester is ready to go out if the smaller one is not ready yet.
okay. Board of Health, Charlie, anything? wanna
No,
talk?
nothing new from the Board of Health.
Okay. Either Michael, Nathan, or Gary, do you want to talk about SBA dredging or anything with zebra
I'll
mussels?
defer to Mike on that.
Hi, Michael, do you want to speak?
There's nothing really that we didn't discuss 20 minutes ago about. I think
Okay.
that the dredging is really, we got to submit, GCA's got to submit the lake management plan onto NHESP and DEP. So we should try to get that as soon as possible to them. But thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have any old business that we need to circle around to?
Oh, I just have one comment. Did Mike Canales not contact you about the use of the term old business? Apparently it's frowned upon.
No, no one's ever emails me.
Okay, I'll talk to him about it because he was supposed to be notifying all the boards and committees because it comes up on various agendas.
What is that, Roxanne?
Just the term, using the term old business.
Business shouldn't be used?
No, because it's not specific enough. In other words, if you got old business, you can have a heading of old business, but you have to stipulate what the old business is so the public understands what your actual agenda is in the meeting. So, but that's come down from, town council that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with using old business, but you can't use that as the agenda topic all by itself. It needs to be specified. You need to be able to, if you're having old business, you need to have the different categories. What did you specifically talk about? What categories are you talking about? That could be under old business, but you just can't have an old business and a blank after that. It has to be more specific.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, information?
I have a question, Jamie. It's Anita.
Hi,
Shorter.
Anita.
Hi,
Go ahead.
hi, everybody. Thank you for all that you're doing. But if we could circle back just a minute to dredging, the presentation at the select board meeting from GZA about dredging was very good and interesting. And he said it would take about 18 months to get the permitting just for the dredging. So on the off chance that we're moving forward with dredging, is it possible to start the permitting process while we figure out whether the SBA still has the $1.5 million and where the money's coming from? Can excuse me, is it possible to move forward with the permitting? Also, could you explain, is Greg Wellenkamp still involved with the dredging, representing the town? Because I wondered why he doesn't attend the meetings, if so.
Jamie, I can respond.
Thank you.
Then you may have the floor.
Yes, Greg Wallenkamp is still the select board representative. He is still actively working on it, putting in a lot of time. And yes, the permitting process can move forward. I know Michael Canales did have we had a conference call with GZA specifically about that. So we're moving towards the 70% design phase right now. And then once you get to that point, then you move to your 100%. So it's a phased process doing the permitting, but yes, to answer your question simply, yes, permitting, the process can begin now.
Thank you. And did we have anything in writing, a signed contract with the SBA? I mean, when you're looking into the finances, they had committed to paying, excuse me, for the dredging, according to their newsletters and so on.
Michael, do you want
That
to?
I'm aware of. Well, I don't know that Michael would know it, but do you know, Mike?
Hand up.
I just want to correct Anita. Anita, how are you? The SBA is a partner, a financial partner. This is a town project. And the SBA over the last many years has raised, we calculate about $1.5 million. That's what we've always been saying. I don't believe that we ever, or the SBA ever said that they were going to pay for the whole amount. We were going to partner. In other words, if we figure that the dredging is 4 million, that'll be basically a third of the monies. And we're hoping to raise, once we go ahead with the project, to do another capital campaign. But never did the SBA, to the best of my knowledge, ever agree to pay for the whole thing. That would be impossible for us to do. We need town help, and we've always said that. We need town partnership on this. And, individual partners and whatever it takes to raise the money for this important project.
It was collected over 10 years ago. I
Oh, yeah, the
believe.
money is still there, Anita. It's still there in the capital campaign. It hasn't been spent.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah. I mean, let me put it this way. I know we have Pat Kennelly here. Pat, am I misspeaking or?
So, Mike, I was just trying to unmute myself. No, you're not. Obviously, there are capital campaign funds that are dedicated and in our accounts that are totally earmarked for this project.
Yeah. Thank you, Pat.
All right, Charlie, do you have anything?
Oh, I already said what I said about that.
Anyone else?
No.
Anyone from the audience? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay. And next meeting is May 20th, 8 AM. John?